All right, Dr. Luckern, we are rolling.
Great. Thank you very much, Alan. And the first thing I want to do is introduce my faculty members tonight. My name is Dr. Lochran, and I oversee the Capstone course for post-university. I am one of the MBA chairs, and the Capstone is my responsibility. And I do want to congratulate all of you for getting to this point in your MBA. And I can speak for Alan and the faculty members that are present. We are proud of you. We know it's not easy, especially in the COVID world that you went through and the challenges with family and work. And realize this, depending what state you're in, it's about 10% of the US population earns a master's degree. So be very proud of that. I know you're not quite there, but you're so very close. And you're just at the end of this journey, and I think this course will allow you to bring it all together. We have some awesome faculty members handpicked by me that I know will do an awesome job for you. And so know that about yourself and know that it isn't easy, and we know that. So tonight we're going to give you kind of a snapshot of what this course will be and how it's organized and the things that you have to consider and how to be successful, and some wisdom that we've learned by teaching this course for a very long time. I taught it for many, many years. I've been overseeing it for about 4 years. And so I like to say that I know it well, but every time it's a unique experience. Students get to pick different topics that they discuss and they write about. So we always learn things. And that's why I love the Capstone course so much, because it really is a learning experience, not only for the student, but for the instructor as well. So I'm located in Michigan, and I've been with Post University since 2013. I'll introduce now Dr. Menon. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, good evening, everybody. I'm Dr. Menon, and I've been with Post for close to 14 years now, and I've done this Capstone course for probably 8 years of that. And it's been, as Jim mentioned, a unique experience every time. I get a new set of students, a new set of projects, and guiding you through this entire Capstone project itself is very exciting for me. And I'm looking forward to meeting some of you in my class. And thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Dr. McGivern.
Thank you, sir. Welcome, everybody. And I've been with Post since 2007. I've been teaching this course since 2018, off and on. I've done it face-to-face, and I've done it online. It is a fun course. It is a busy course, but what I did it today with a gentleman that's starting next week. I think it starts next week. Called me up and said, hey, help me out. And we were on the phone for about half an hour, just chatting about projects and where he could come and where he could go with it. And now he's really excited. He wants to get at it. So it's really cool. So my best advice to everybody is when you get in is try to think about what you want to write about, and search through the syllabus and everything else. But I always ask my students, get a quick telephone chat with me in the first week for 15, 20 minutes. It makes everything a whole lot easier for both sides. So if you end up in my class, please take me up on that, and I would appreciate that.
Great. Thank you, Dr. McGivern. Appreciate it. So I'm going to go through the course, and I'll allow my professors to chime in and give some of their experiences as we go through, and we'll certainly open it up to questions as well, and at the end we'll leave some time for questions. And so this course really is broken into 4 different compartments, I would say, and that would be number 1, you're going to be working in a virtual team, and I know many of you have done that, and some of you have had good experiences, and some of you probably as soon as you see that bullet point, like, oh no, not again. But the virtual team in this course is set up a little bit differently in that the course is not a project-based learning course, meaning that the course is not built around one project that you're going to be working on with a team, but you are going to be running a business in this course, and it's a simulated business, and you're going to be working with a team to start with in running this. And you'll have different roles as you're doing this. And we use a simulation, which means a third-party vendor, and you're going to be selling sensors, which may not seem like the most interesting business to be in, but it's a business to business, and it is not a real business, but it is a business that will feel like one because you're making decisions as you would in a business. You have to decide many marketing decisions, who you're going to sell to, what markets are you going to be in, what features are you going to have on the product. You're going to be making production decisions, which are incredibly important, how much you're going to produce and what price you're going to sell it for. You're going to make human resource decisions about your team, whether they're going to work second shift and overtime, how much plant capacity you're going to use, and all these really important business decisions. And I know some of you will never had the desire to work in manufacturing, but this business situation is very similar to any business. You have customers, you have employees, you have products, you have marketing that you have to consider, and you have to have a strategy. And so you're going to be applying concepts from most of your MBA, particularly your core courses, and particularly the business strategy course will be a foundation for this course, Business 525, and a lot of the basics of strategy you're going to apply in this course. And so when you get to the first day of the course, you'll be able to see information about the simulation. It'll be an announcement from your professor, and you'll see a link, and you'll click the link, and it'll give you your ID number that every student gets the same information to start with, and then you key in your information and then set up your account, and you're ready to go. And your professor will put you on teams. There's usually somewhere between 4 and 6 team members on each team. We usually have somewhere between 2 and 3 teams per class. And there's also a couple computer teams that you'll be competing with as well. But the gist of it is that you want to learn the simulation. That's what you're doing in the first week, and we give you information to do that. And there's a guide book that is located that's available to you that'll give you kind of the encyclopedia of the simulation. And we know it takes time to learn that. Don't be hard on yourself. Give yourself time. But this is not a class you can cram. You can't say, oh, you know what, I'm going to take the first week off and then try to get caught up the second week. You can't do this course because everything builds on each other. So the first week, you're learning your team members, you're learning the simulation, you're taking some quizzes within the simulation just to learn it, and then you are going through and deciding on how you're going to interact with each other. So we have I'll call it contract that you do with each other, and you talk about the different roles and your responsibilities in there, and that's done early on in the class. And then after that, then you're going to do a practice round. And when I use the word round in a simulation, that means when you make decisions. And so you're going to have a couple practice rounds, and then you're going to go into the actual simulation, we call it competition rounds, and you're going to do that as a team, and you have a handful of those that you're going to do so, and then you do those, and then after that you do it individually. So once you're done and you go into the 6th week of the course and you do it individually, which we call the Comp XM, which I'll talk about later. So there's so many reasons why it's important to be engaged in the simulation. You know, there's some students say, well, it's a team and I'm not very good with computers, so I'm just going to let the team do it and hope for the best. That's a bad strategy for a couple reasons. One is the team members get to evaluate you. You get peer reviews. So if you're not engaged, you're not meeting with your team. Most teams meet once to twice a week, usually in a forum that the teams decide, some kind of Perhaps it might be somebody's Teams account. It might be somebody's Zoom, whatever you guys decide. A lot of students use apps as well to communicate. Many students use Google Docs and they build on it. But you need to communicate. I know both professors will tell you the teams that do the best have the most communication, and they're talking amongst each other. They're holding on to what they wrote in their contract, and they're treating each other with respect, dignity. If you have a conflict, you resolve that professionally, and you hold people accountable to what their responsibilities are. If they're not adhering to those responsibilities, then you have a couple peer reviews that will affect their grade significantly. And so you have a right to hold people accountable. And so if you're a student and you're not engaged, you probably won't get good peer reviews, which will affect your score. The number one reason somebody doesn't pass this course would be poor peer reviews. And I will tell you, and I believe both professors will back me on this, it is extremely rare for in this capstone course for a student to get a poor peer review, because you guys are so close to the end. You've worked so hard. Everybody's in the same boat. They want to finish. They want to be done before the holidays and then celebrate with their family. This is your last class. And so we find students highly engaged. Now, occasionally things, happen. I think the important piece is communicating your team, but if somebody's not engaged, they should not get the score of everybody else. If they have an emergency for one round or something, that's something you have to consider. But if they're consistently saying, I'm too busy at work, I got too much going on, that kind of stuff, it's not fair to the other members. The other thing is you have to do this individually. So if you haven't been engaged, you don't understand the simulation, we find students that get poor peer reviews do not do well on the individual portion in week 6. And so it's a double whammy. And so you want to be engaged right from the get-go. You want to be the team member that is respected on the team. And you want to make sure that you understand there may be conflicts, but you're going to deal with those professionally and listen to other folks' opinions. And we find that people with different experiences and backgrounds can work together and they can be very successful, but you have to respect differences. And so with that said, that's the first 6 weeks of the course. And then when you go in, you make those decisions in the rounds, you're going to see a calendar with all the dates. They're already in there when those rounds are due and the time that they're due. And then after they're due, your professor will provide the team with some feedback, but the professor will never tell you how to fix the issues. Occasionally we'll get an email from a team or a student saying, we can't figure out what we're doing wrong. We think we're doing a great job, but our score is terrible. There must be something wrong with the simulation. And we're going to provide you feedback, and you have to figure out how to fix it. And so after each round, you get different reports, just like you would in a business. And probably the most crucial report is something called the courier. And so that courier report will give you your sales for each product. It will tell you the sales of all your competitors. It will tell you your market share for all your products. It will tell you how much you have left over, your gross margin, and all those important financial components to your business. And obviously, the goal of this is to be profitable, is to have high sales, but also high margin, so you're going to be, you want to be profitable. And so producing a lot of an item that does not have a lot of profit does little or probably a lot of negative to your organization. So making really good, sound decisions is incredibly important. The second thing to consider is the number one reasons that students struggle in the simulation is producing too much. And just like in a real world scenario, if you're running a business, having high levels of inventory is extremely costly. I mean, that's happening in the real world right now in the retail industry. And so you have to really think about how much you produce. And usually what I find when students in a team, they produce too much, it's oftentimes because they make very poor marketing decisions. They are not producing a product that is desired by the particular target market that they're looking at. You're going to find that our sensors have different target markets. You're going to have ones that are kind of the low end. You have the higher end. You have the high technology and so on. And you could decide if you want to be in all those businesses or pick which ones that you want to be in, but you need to have a strategy. And so as a team, you have to decide, hey, how do we want to market our products? And what market do we want to be in? And how much do we want to sell it for? And so thinking about these production decisions and marketing decisions as a team. What we often find is the folks that struggle in teams that struggle, they don't communicate with each other and they make decisions in a vacuum. The marketing person's making like, I checked all the criteria and everything matched. And the productions person, I'm just producing as much as I possibly can. I followed the formula. And then they find they're the highest price in the market. They find that they weren't a very high quality. You're going to be able to see statistics on your quality. Gosh, a couple terms ago, I had a team that was struggling, and they had the lowest quality metric on all their products. And a student sent me an email, said, I think it's ridiculous that we get hurt because we don't have high quality. I just want you to think about that statement for a moment. Wouldn't you say, beyond price, would you buy anything that wasn't quality? In a sense that it wasn't at least in the medium range of the competitors. And so just because you're charging less doesn't mean that folks will accept a poor quality product. And so thinking about that for a moment is really important in how you make decisions. We find that most students have fun with the simulation, but there's a learning curve. That first week can be a bit overwhelming. So just take it all in, work with your team, absorb the information, work, looking over the guidebook and navigating it. One really nice thing is within the simulation, you'll see a 1-800 phone number. And if you have any questions on navigating the simulation, let's say it's 6 o'clock in the evening, Eastern time, and you're like, man, I'm stuck. Don't email the professor because they may not see it for several hours. Go ahead and call, or you can email the Capstone folks and they will answer it. I find when you call them, they can walk right through. They can talk to you in real time, and you'll see in the simulation, there's a toll-free number. They're open from 9 to 9 Eastern time, Monday through Friday. But even on the weekends, if you have a question, you can email them. Again, they're not going to tell you how to fix an issue, but if you're lost inside the simulation or you're not sure how to do something, they're great. And as a professor, that's how I've learned the simulation, through them. But please utilize them because it'll be much more efficient for you to get the answer when you need it. And so bottom line to this is you're going to run the simulated business. You're going to be making business decisions. The way that we score the teams in here is how they communicate their results. So you have a few you have some team papers that you're going to do, and you will get a grade from your professor. We're not going to score you on how well you or didn't do well on a simulation as far as on the team portion, but we are going to score you on how you communicate what you're doing, what was done, how you're going to fix it, and so on. And that's the true learning in the simulation. I'm going to stop for a moment and open up to my professors. Dr. Menon, what would you like to add to the simulation?
Jim, I think you covered most of the main points there, and I just want to reiterate that Capstone support is one of the best to approach in case of any issues with the simulation, and we may not be able to see your inputs in real time, so they can see that and help you out on that. We can only see once the results are coming out of the simulation, and I give you the feedback on that, which will help you in the next round. Other than that, I think it's a fascinating simulation, and it is a real-time business you're running from the C-suite. So you get to make some decisions on each of the functional areas within the business. Thanks, Jim.
You're welcome. And just to reiterate, you could take different roles. So if you want, for round one, be marketing, and the next round, do something else. That's how you learn the simulation, and it can really help you when you get into the CompXM. But how you do that and how you make decisions in the different roles is totally up to the team. Dr. McGivern, what would you like to add?
Well, the one thing that students always want to be number one. You always want to be number one. You want to be the best. And then the first week you do the simulation and you weren't. Maybe you're the last place, maybe you're fourth place, something like that. And I tell students that's real life. That can happen in a real business. You think you got it right, but then you get kicked in the butt and you're behind the eight ball. The key is how you work with your classmates to turn it around. That would be real world. And there's always somebody in the room or in your group that's going to be real good in accounting. Somebody might be better in manufacturing. So there's always an expert in each one of these fields. Find out who they are, but don't just rely on what they say. You got to kind of put it all in the hopper and figure out what's the best for your team. I find the teams that get discouraged because they were in last place or not in a great place, they get discouraged. It's not good. Just get positive and say, hey, what can you learn? You're not graded so much on the place where you place. You're graded on how well your team works together and gels and turns the darn thing around. It's not uncommon to see somebody in first place in the first round, second place first place in the second round, but then they slip to the bottom because the other team said, hey, we figured this out. So have fun with it. I think Dr. Lochran said, if you have fun with it, your butt's not in the seat right here, right now, because somebody's asking you to be here. You're doing it because you want to do something for yourself and get better. What a great way to learn about a business than this simulation. So that's it.
Great. Thank you very much. And, the whole purpose of this is to apply what you've learned in this program and to work in a team. We hear constantly from business leaders, this is what they're looking for. I'm going to open up, Alan, to any questions that students may have, whether it's typed in or if they want to state it.
Chat is empty so far, but yeah, please go right ahead, everybody. Speak or type. Any questions you have so far?
Well, you could think about it where I'm going to move on to the actual Capstone project, which is something different. And the Capstone project.
Real quick, Jim, we did actually have one question. How are the teams created?
So the teams are created by the instructor, and there is no great formula for that, nothing scientific. Most professors are going to be somewhat random. I think the only thing that we do try to do is if we have folks from different concentrations, we do our best to have a team that would have folks from different concentrations just to get it more diverse that way. But sometimes that's not possible because we end up with, of course, with one concentration more represented. But we do try to do that. So there is no formula. We do not allow students to just pick their folks, the people they want on their team. We try to think about it in terms of, hey, we want to have folks with, different skill sets the best we can. Did that answer the question?
Yes, it did. We have one other question came through from Amy. Can we do the simulations over to redo the rounds?
No, the rounds cannot be, they're in the system and they go right through the calendar. So we got to get through them through the course. So there's no redos, but you do get the practice round that doesn't count for anything, just learning the simulation. So those are your redos. Think of it that way. So we do give you some practice. Did that answer the questions?
Okay, that's all we've got so far. Yes, that did answer the question.
All right, I'll be happy to answer some on the simulation when we're done, but I'll go into the Capstone project. If that's okay? So the Capstone project is an individual. This is not team. This is a project that the student selects themselves and something that they're passionate about. It's a minimum 20-page paper. And you have a few different choices when you think about what you want to write on. And before you get too stressed, like 20 pages on top of the simulation, please don't stress about it, because you're actually writing this throughout the course. You're doing drafts as you move through. And so you'll be doing on average about 5 pages a time. And you'll be getting feedback from either your instructor, and there'll be some times where you get some feedback from your fellow students, on the discussion board. We don't have traditional discussion boards in this class, but we do have some times where you can upload your paper, upload a presentation or reflection, which I'll talk about in a moment. Just different times that you're able to do that. But the traditional discussion board is not utilized in this course. There's no textbook for this course. This is all an application course, meaning that you're applying what you've already learned. And so you'll find out when you get into the course, you'll have certain things that need to get done at certain times with the minimum 20-page at the end. But what you're going to be writing on could be a number of different things. And the most popular focus is what we call a proposal. And a proposal means that you're going to propose something to an organization to improve something. And most students write on the company they work with currently, but it's not mandatory to do so. And there may be any number of reasons why you may not want to do that. And so it's certainly, don't stress if you don't want to write about the company, or you're in between jobs, or you plan on leaving, or you're just not happy there, whatever the case is. But there's many other options that you could focus on in terms of trying to make something better. And so what we want you to do, number one, when you think about make something better, make an improvement on something, or take advantage of an opportunity, think about those different things and think about your current job. You could also think about a nonprofit that you're passionate about. We approve many nonprofits. So we've had folks write projects on veterans. We've had folks on in terms of community nonprofits that they've actually created, or working with one that they want to improve for any number of reasons. And so think about that for a moment. And I want you to think about 4 things as you think about, pop an idea in your mind and ask yourself these 4 questions. Most importantly, number 1, are you passionate? That's beyond anything else. When you talk to the instructor about your idea, we're going to know. We can tell somebody's passion in their voice. We can also tell, like, I've written about this in 4 leadership courses. I just know the topic. Or my boss wants me to do this, so I guess I might as well do it for my capstone. Students that do that usually do not do that great. When you truly care about something, we can tell. You're going to be writing about this for 2 months. So think about something that you care deeply about. Secondly, I want you to think about something that you have resources available to you. And so if you want to write about something, do you have the data? Will you be able to get it from the organization? Do you have the information that you need? You don't want to choose something and find out later that you won't get approved for it. You want to make sure that you have the ability to get that information. We don't want you to take something abstract and that you are not have any access to. For example, a few terms ago, we had a student that wanted to write about Tesla. They are very passionate about Tesla. They did not work for Tesla. They had no data on Tesla other than what they could find online. And so that would not likely be approved. We want you to take something that you can truly make a difference. We've had students where They've been promoted because of these projects. We've had students make significant differences in their community because of these projects. And so I want you to think about something that you can make a difference with. And thirdly, I want you to think about in terms of how you can apply what you've learned in our program in terms of your concentration. So if your concentration is leadership, we would want your focus to be on leadership. It needs to be a leadership issue. If your, concentration is project management, well, it needs to be a project of some sort. And that usually works for just about anything, but it needs to be able to apply these concepts that you've learned about project management. And same goes for any other. So as innovation or entrepreneurship, marketing, and so on. So I want you to really think about that in terms of applying your MBA concentration. And so also, the last thing I want you to consider, and you could argue one of the more important ones, is the scope. We want to make sure you have the proper scope, meaning that you do have to write a 20-page paper. So it can't be so abstract, so big, and not focus that you could write 200 pages on it. We want to focus it enough so you could meet all the requirements of this assignment. We don't want a little bitty assignment that really can't meet all the requirements, meaning that there is a financial component requirement. So there has to be some sort of quantitative aspect to this. That could be anything from a cost benefit analysis to a P&L to a balanced scorecard to KPIs. There's a lot of different ways focus students do that, but there has to be a quantitative component to it. You do have to have goals and SMART objectives, as you recall from the strategy course. So we're going to ask you to create some overarching goals, which goals are the big thing you're focused on. And the objectives are SMART, specific, measurable, achievable, relative, and time bound. And so we're going to have you write those goals and SMART objectives as you put this together. So a proposal is the typical way. And I would say in any given class, it's probably 80% of our students choose that. But the other possibility is a completely new venture. And so if your concentration is entrepreneurship, or you've always had a dream of opening your own business, we've had many. We've had everything from karate studios to breweries to consulting firms and anything in between, restaurants and all kinds of different things, food trucks. And so, we want to still, if you choose that way, you still have to be able to apply your concentration. So if you want to open a business and your concentration is leadership, how can you apply that? And I've had students apply it in terms of the types of culture that they're going to have within their business. And they're going to talk about the business, but they're also going to talk about transformational leadership and a type of inclusive culture that they're going to create and how they're going to do it and their hiring practices and all those kind of things. But it's still about the business. The third choice in here would be you don't want to write about any particular business for any reason, but there is a concept that you are very passionate about that could apply to any number of businesses. And so one that comes to my mind that's selected once in a while would be a social media strategy. And so you want to create a social media strategy for a specific type of business, but not for any particular business, but anyone in that business. And I think we've had some students do this in terms of a strategy for a retail business on how they can use social media to attract not only customers, but also retain their employees, communicate to the community, build a brand image, and take the things that they've learned in their marketing courses and apply it to this strategy. So you have these different options. There's not one better than the other. And so just because 80% choose a proposal doesn't mean it's easier than doing a new venture. it really is what you are passionate about. And so that's what we want you to think about. And so that's why I'm so happy you're here tonight, so you can kind of reflect on this and think about it. And before that course starts, and have an idea, communicate to your professor. One of the very first assignments in week 1 is articulating what you're going to write on. And as the professor's saying, communicating to them early so they can help you if they don't understand, that you're able to communicate what you are focused on and you have your scope right. And they'll ask you questions. Do you have the resources available to you? And so when you're all said and done, as I mentioned, you have a 20-page paper. You also do a 10-minute presentation. That won't be live. It'll be recorded on a file, but we want you to do it as if you are presenting to your stakeholders. So if it's a project for your company, as if you are going to your boss or your boss's boss or the group that will make the decision on this proposal. If you are an entrepreneur, then it would be going to folks that maybe you are looking for a loan from and being able to articulate that. And so know the stakeholder group that you're going to be communicating to in this. And our hope is that you'll be able to present this, someday, hopefully very soon, and be prepared by completing this presentation. So bottom line to this project is pick something you're passionate about, something you have resources, something that applies to your concentration, and also something that, that will meet the scope of a 20-page paper and a 10-minute presentation. I'm going to stop and give it to my professors to add any of their wisdom. I'll start with Dr. McGivern this time.
Going around backwards, huh? I think the students do freak out with a 20-page requirement for the paper, but as one of my students once said, hey, that's only like 2 or 3 pages a week. And you've probably been doing that since day 1 in your MBA process anyway. So, but I also want to reiterate what Dr. Lockman said about making sure you can have access to the data you might need. I've seen many students get all excited when they start, and in about 2 weeks, and they go, I don't think I can get it, and usually I would tell a student, and not usually, every time I talk to a student, if I can get them on the telephone, I say, look, you may be biting off more than you can chew. Don't make it so monstrous that you can't do it. You want to be a Nobel laureate, do it post-graduation. We don't have to do that now. So, but I have had, I would say, a half a dozen students through the years actually implement their capstones back at work. The 6 that I know of, there may have been others that have done it, but they didn't get back to me on that. But many of them have been very successful, and it's really cool to see that, because that's what this is all about, is to better your life and better your job and get something out of it. So good luck with that.
Thank you. Dr. Menon.
Yes, as I think both the professors have reiterated the passion point of the project. So you should be pretty engaged in it, and something that really drives you to completion. So that's important. And when you pick the topic, and all along we're here to support you. So every week I usually have at least through the first 5 weeks, I have a weekly conference call with my students, just directing them and making sure they're on the right track. And you can ask any questions you have at that period. And so we're here to help you be successful. So don't forget that. So anytime you can pick up the phone and call us if you need any help with the project. So always keep that in mind. And as you pick a topic, just make sure that you can complete it. Some people do pick up a topic and then after a week or so say, I don't want to do this. I want to do something else. So give it a really good thought and make sure that you can, go to the completion of it and be done with it. And we're here to help you. So don't worry. You can, in the first week, have conversations with all my students to make sure that they pick the right topic and have the right resources to complete it. So thanks.
Great. I'm going to open up to questions now, Ellen, for any of the students, written or if they want to ask us, that'd be great.
Great. All right. So I have a couple leftover simulation questions, but I can hang on to those to the end if you prefer. But regarding the project itself, UC asked if I want to write a business strategic plan for my own business, will that be okay?
So do you mean like a brand new business that I talked about, or you currently have a business and you want to develop a strategic plan to improve something? That would be a proposal, and that would be likely approved as long as you can apply it to your MBA concentration.
Yeah, to improve their current business.
Yeah, so long as it applies to their concentration, it would likely be approved by the professor and it meets the scope.
Okay, adding a new service to their current business.
Yeah, so I look at that as taking advantage of an opportunity, going after a new market, whatever the case is. So that would likely be approved, especially if you're a marketing concentration. So that would be, great. But work with your professor. But we've had plenty of students do their own business.
Okay, great.
Was there any other questions on the simulation?
I've got one incoming. Okay, well, I have two leftover questions on the simulation. Is regarding the project, Amber asks, is there a paper on ethics in banking? Is that too broad?
So remember, you have to have a problem that you're going to work on. We don't want this to be a theoretical that you're just writing about different companies and how, they handle ethics. We want this to be something you're applying. So if you're writing an ethics policy for your bank that you currently work at, and so you're developing a new policy and you're applying it and you're able to utilize what you've done in your concentration, it would likely be approved. Something like that. But it has to be something you're focused on in an organization and not just theoretical. Did that answer the question?
Yes. Yes, it did. All right. And yeah, I had two leftover questions. First, regarding the simulation, how long does the simulation last?
So yeah, you're working on a team for the first 5 weeks, and then the comp XM, which is the individual portion, is done week 6. So you're done with the simulation at the end of week 6.
Right. And the second question was, do the simulation rounds correlate with the topics that we'll write on during the round timeframes?
Not sure I understand that. So you're saying what topics are they talking about their capstone project?
Right. So
Yeah, there's no correlation there. Those are two completely separate assignments. One is your individual and then you have the business. They are not interrelated in any way.
Great. Okay, another question came in from Amy regarding the project. How about the purchase of a farm?
So if you are talking about starting your own business as a particular farm, whatever you plan on farming, it probably could be approved from an entrepreneurial standpoint, in terms of, you have to make very important business decisions in there, and there'll be a lot of marketing decisions and the types of crops and whatever you're going to be doing. So you have to run it and think about what's your concentration MBA. Can you apply it? We've had students write on very similar topics in terms of we've had farm markets and those kind of things and selling to farm markets and online and so on. And so pretty much the way we've always decided, if it's legal in the state that you're in, we're going to approve it. Okay, so I don't know what you're getting at, but we've had folks, take things and grow things that might be legal in their state, and that has been approved by us. Yeah, and so that's fine, but I think you're going to have to come up with a business, you're going to come up with a business plan for this.
So that follow-up was cattle and soybeans and leasing land to a business is currently the way that functions.
Yeah, and so you're going to do that as a business plan. And as long as you can apply your concentration. So if it's entrepreneurship, I feel pretty good about that. Any other questions?
Just to follow up on that last one, is it yes, I believe marketing to USDA to approve a loan in a marketing plan.
Okay. Yep.
All right.
That sounds like a good, sounds like a good one.
Great. All right. And that's all I have so far.
All right. Well, what I have left is my favorite part to talk about. We have two other requirements in the class, and one is just my very favorite personally, and that is the reflection video that you do. And the reason I like it so much is we really get to see the real you, meaning that you get to reflect on your experience and think about how you got here. You might be the very first person in your family with a graduate degree or a degree. You might have been through a lot of personal challenges to get here. If you feel comfortable sharing them, then share them. If you don't, we don't require that, but we've had folks that lost family members in this journey. We have folks that were very sick. We've had cancer survivors. We've had people that were incarcerated earlier in their life and changed their life around. We've had many stories like that. And it makes me feel like I made the right career decision when I hear these stories, because we know that we make a difference in people's lives. And so when I hear this reflection, it's really about, hey, what went well? What didn't go so well? What suggestions do you have for us in the MBA program? How'd you grow? What courses had the biggest effect on you? Where were your challenges? What could you have done differently? That's really what this is about. And that's why we enjoy. But again, don't share anything you don't feel comfortable with. But a lot of folks, it hits them at that point, because you're doing this in week 7 and you're like, hang on, I think I might have just made it. And we've had students tear up. I can remember one very clearly where the student said, you know what, I never thought I'd be here. I went through a divorce 2 years ago, and my significant other said to me, I'm not smart enough. You'll never make it. And you know what? I proved him wrong. And the sad thing is, for years, I believed him. But you know what? I did it. And you know what's funny? She said in her video, I just got promoted. Not because I'm any smarter, but because I am confident, and my confidence has shown, and I have more confidence in the job that I do now. And this degree has changed me in ways that I never thought possible. So those kind of things really, I want you to reflect on your journey. And I'm guessing some of you have had experiences that really allowed you to grow in the last couple of years, especially with the challenges that we've all faced. So we look forward to that. Also, there's a exam that you have to take. And I know when I mention exam, people are like, oh no, we got this project, we have the simulation. No, this guy's throwing an exam. Well, the exam is a national exam that universities throughout the United States and the world use to evaluate their programs. And so we're not going to evaluate you on your score, which might sound strange, but we're actually evaluating our program. As long as you take it by the date that's in the class, and you submit it on time and submit it in the right spot, you're going to get the credit. But we evaluate our programs not only as a holistic way, but also in terms of, there's different questions on it. There are marketing questions, there's accounting questions, there's even econ questions, and probably classes you didn't have in the program. No worries about that. We just want to see how we compare to schools similar to ourselves, and always looking at ways to improve who we are, give the best experience to the students and to the businesses that you're going to work at. And so making sure that we're giving you the skills necessary to be successful. So occasionally we all get emails from students saying, I'm so disappointed in my score. I thought I learned so much in the program, and that score really disappointed. Don't dwell on that, because all of us, we have different skills. Some of us really get a lot of anxiety when we take exams, may affect our score. but we're looking at it from a holistic standpoint. We're looking at it individual students. We're not making any judgments about you. We don't share information about specific students. We're only looking at it from a holistic standpoint of our program. I think that's all I wanted to cover, Alan. I'm going to open up to questions. And I guess I'll go Dr. Menon. Any last comments that you have before we go to questions?
Nothing specific, Jim. I think you covered everything. And as I said earlier, we are here to support you. So never hesitate to reach out and ask for it, and we'll help you through this. Thanks.
Dr. McGivern.
I think one thing I'd add is have fun. Doesn't have to hurt to learn. Just have fun. Looking forward to working with you.
And I will say this about the course. You've listened to us tonight. We have this meeting to help you prepare, and it sounds like a lot, and it is a lot, but it's doable. We have a very, very high success rate. We don't have many failures, and usually it's something to do with not being in the team or getting way behind or whatever the case, something comes up. But generally speaking, students are successful, and I think Alan will say most students say it was a really good experience, but it was a lot of work. And so we don't get many complaints about the class, but what we do get is, hey, you just got to be prepared and you got to stay current. Alan, anything you want to add to that?
I think you guys really covered it, but this is something you should be excited about. This is something that you should be proud of yourself for getting to this point in the program. If it's also completely okay to feel a little overwhelmed or to feel a little, a little trepidatious, because the class is a lot of work, but you didn't get here by accident. All right, you've already put in so much time and so much effort. This is just a little bit further. And if you do find you need help, you have questions, you've all been working alongside either me or Emily, for a while now. Emily, just in case you don't know, is going to be out on maternity leave during this upcoming term. So I'll actually probably be fielding questions from most of you if anything does come up. But we are here to support you. We want to see you do well. We know you've got what it takes because you're already here. And this is it, home stretch. So we have your back if you need us.
And I see one question about how many videos are required. So I mentioned two of them. One is for your project, as if you were going to present to the organization or to the stakeholders of some sort. And the second one was that self-reflection one. So there's two. Any other questions?
And you are also welcome to unmute and speak. Please, I'm happy to keep fielding them in the chat too, though.
Well, it looks like we're having one question, but I just want to thank all of you for being here. I want to thank my faculty members and Alan for putting this together. I really appreciate it. It shows me that you care, that you're here. Now you can reflect on it. I always say this course is like eating an elephant, one bite at a time. Don't think about the big elephant that you have to eat for dinner. Think about each bite along this journey. So don't have a lot of anxiety. Just say, listen, I've been successful. I'm going to get this. I got a plan, and you have faculty members that care. And so know that going into it. Any other last comments or questions before we let you go?
I think
good luck to everybody. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you and take care.
Thank you all.
Thanks for attending, everybody. Again, remember the recording of this video will be available as of tomorrow morning. If you'd like a copy, just ask Emily or myself. We'll be happy to get it to you. Have a good evening.